a special Memorial Day tribute. We remember those who served our country in the military. They sacrificed their lives for our freedom. I want you to hear this verse from John 15:13, and it's one that should be on our lips as we remember those who died in the military. Greater love has no man than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. There is also a special saying as a World War I tribute on granite. They say we were young. We have died. Remember us. That leads me into this letter I want to share with you, and it gives a Memorial Day perspective from a father's heart. This letter was written in 2007. Dear family, I felt impressed this morning to share a reflection or two that an experience your mother and I had this week. I'm always talking about perspective, and now it seems to help us to see life more clearly. Our local newspaper carried an article about our National Guard unit that is being deployed for a year's duty in Iraq. As I discovered later, they actually volunteered for this mission. Many of them had returned from Iraq or Afghanistan just over a year ago. Some already had served 2 tours of duty in these dangerous war zones. As word of their deployment spread about, a local pastor began to pray and talk to his church about how they could support and encourage these men and their families. And so soon, our own church was invited to be involved as well. On this past Monday morning, we went to the armory along with probably 100 or more church volunteers to minister to, in whatever way we could, to 140 soldiers and their families. It was one of the most emotion-filled and meaningful days I've experienced in a long, long time. There were designated areas for the men and their families to have their pictures made. But we also made copies so that each family could be adopted by a member of one of our churches to send needed items to the soldiers during the year and to minister in some practical ways to their families. We tried to keep the mood as positive as we could with live gospel music and a Texas barbecue meal. Volunteers moved among them, giving each soldier a Bible. Later, one of our pastors shared a message, encouraging every man to prepare spiritually for the battle ahead. Counselors waited and prayed. Volunteers bounced babies on their laps while husbands and wives spent their final time together before departure the next day. Your mom and I had the chance to sit down with several of these guardsmen and their wives and just get to know them and listen to their stories. Some of them were leaving behind babies that were only weeks old. Others would wondered how their families would survive the financial pressures of an absent breadwinner. Still others must have been wondering simply if they would return. One former soldier's wife commented to us, quote, "It's not just bullets that threaten them. That's only part of the battle. They will be fighting temptation, loneliness, and a host of other trials," unquote. As we moved from table to table, we tried to ask each soldier, "How can I pray for you while you are away?" Most of them said something like, "Pray I get home. Pray for my family. Pray we get our job done." It was hard for me to hold back the tears as we looked into those faces, some that seemed so young, and realized that they would face in the days ahead what they needed. We felt at times like intruders, realizing how sacred these moments were. We were privileged to witness their reactions. A blonde, blue-eyed 19-year-old sat with his grandparents who had raised him, ready for action on his first tour. Yet you could sense the fear behind the smile. Another young man carrying scars, already without yet seeing combat. He sat alone. He and his wife had signed divorce papers 3 weeks earlier. Still another had missed the birth of his first 2 children while on tours overseas, and now he was off again. I was there the next morning when the buses rolled out into the parking lot at the Armory, carrying these men to another state for further training, and by summer to Iraq. It nearly ripped my heart out to see children clinging to their daddies with tears rolling down their faces, and wives longing for as long as possible for one last moment with a husband they love so greatly, with no guarantee they will see them well and whole again. As I look back on those 2 days, I wish every member of Congress, and every American for that matter, could have been there. It might change some things. It changed me. I realized that sometimes it takes another perspective to change your own. I suddenly felt humble and small and very grateful for men who were willing to pay such a great price for my freedom. It made me proud to be an American. Perspective is a great thing, and for a while at least, it allowed me to see life in a whole different light. I need it, and experiences like this are certainly provided it. Mom and I love each of you. We pray for you daily. Give our grandchildren an extra special hug tonight from Mimi and Papa. Bless you, Dad. Isn't that a wonderful letter? Remember it during this week. God bless you, and may you have a good perspective on life.